This is
Chat the Great. We like to go quite far. We like to kind of go to the first part of the journey for you on this podcast. We like to go back to the kind of very beginnings. So can you remember the first kind of performance or something that you saw on stage that you really connecting with and it left kind of like a lasting impression and kind of blew you away and got you into kind of looking at music in that sort of way?
Yeah, there used to be a club in Liverpool in the late 70s, early 80s, called Eric's, and it was an amazing club. It was a club where every ideologically sound person, it felt, in the city was, and it was a great place to hang out if you were a little bit different. And it just felt like the coolest place on the planet.
Yeah.
I was obviously 14 years old, I think, when it shut. But I was lucky enough. They used to do matinees because they'd do like a Saturday afternoon matinee for kids like me to get into. But I managed to get smuggled in by a mate of mine. Nick Neal, his sister was in Dalek I Love You, the Id, I think it was, with Andy McCluskey from OMD. Anyway, long story short, she gets us in and we get to see Atletico Spiz 80, who just changed their name from Spiz Energy, who had a bit of probably most famous for a song called Where's Captain Kirk. And they're sort of like on the more surreal end of sort of like punk rock, new wave, post-punk. Still going now, still battling on, fit and strong. But it was just being in that room. It was really scary and intimidating, but incredible at the same time. And all of a sudden, the rather conservative with a small C and a big C kind of life I'd been growing up with in, suburban Merseyside just was sort of like trashed. And my eyes were opened. And because it was just this great multicultural mix, there were, it was a place where you'd get, kids from Toxteth who didn't necessarily want to hang out there and listen to like Caribbean music. Yeah. It was this very safe place for gays at a time when being gay could really, was a call to arms. And most of the, there was a lad at school, he came out when he was 15. And you had to be hard, and, because people would try and, have a go at you and you had to stand your ground. Yeah. And Pete Burns from Dead or Alive, he was a regular at the club, and he was a regular. The club was at the top end of Matthew Street in Liverpool, and the bottom end of the street was Probe Records. And Pete Burns, who at the time was like, about 6'4", pin thin, scary as anything, and just with this, the drawl that he has, that disparaging. So going in and buying a record from there was just the most, terrifying experience you could have. But you were in this room with all of these amazing looking people, because it's just sort of like, 1980, the fact, you're still sort of like feeling the hangover from punk rock, new waves in full speed. Everyone's wearing great makeup, boys and girls. Yeah. Everyone's wearing outlandish clothes, and I was just so in, and it absolutely changed my life. And I'd loved music before that, but this just gave me a plug. It just connected within me, and it was just like, this is it. This is my life. This is what I want to do. I want to be around these people, because I wasn't a musician, but I want to be around people like you.